What is going on, you guys? Theo here with the big review, back yet again with another King of Fighters All-Star video, and today is Saturday, so thank God we all made it to another weekend. We are going to be doing our normal Saturday chat and chill, but before we do, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe. Helps me out a ton as a new YouTuber. So, let's go ahead and hop into this week's topic, but before we do, I want to put in a bit of a disclaimer. So before we get into this, I want you guys to realize that when I bring this to your attention, this is not me by any stretch of the imagination, indicating that I have any sort of issue with any of the things we're about to talk about. I have no problem with any of it, at all, whatsoever. This is actually more so to educate you guys in case you are not aware of these things, because you'll hear players talk about them quite often anymore. And if it's something that you find to be of value and you want to take advantage, then go right ahead. But I do want to make sure that I kind of clear the air with some of these topics, because whenever I talk about them or people on Discord talk about them, there is a denomination of the player base that has no clue what we're talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and hop into this topic and try to break it down for you guys as concisely as possible. So when it comes to the topic this week, we're going to be talking about macros, emulators, and hardware. So basically what I want to talk about this week is what you see in a lot of different content, a lot of different clips, a lot of different videos that you will see from players that are achieving, for instance, as an example, if you're in Guild Raid and you're doing 800, 900 million damage on a run, or something absolutely ridiculous that a regular player would look at and go, well, how the heck can I ever achieve that? This is how you achieve those things. And so basically, one thing that I think a lot of players do not realize about this channel is not just the opinions of myself or the thoughts of myself. By no means would I be able to gather all the information that I am able to give you guys on a given video each and every day by myself. Now, I do take into account a lot of the conversations I have with the community, because this is a community-based channel, in my opinion. At least that's what I try to make it be. And so therefore, you might see me on the Discords, any of the innumerable amounts that I'm on, chatting with someone about a topic, and it's something where I do take into account the opinions and the words of wisdom from my peers, and I feel like that's something in life you should do in general, but I digress. So basically, a hot topic, a hot button conversation the past several months has been emulators in particular. And basically what people talk about when they talk about emulators is just if you want to peak your performance, if you want to min-max your performance, if you want to get out of the game as much as humanly possible, then you want to be on either one of two things. You want to be on an emulator, which is far more accessible for quite a few players out there, or you want to have the latest, greatest, best hardware humanly possible for a mobile device. And so whenever we talk about emulators, why would you use an emulator? So basically an emulator, but in the beginnings of the game, a lot of people thought, oh, well, and this is a topic where inevitably you have somebody that'll jump into the comments and be like, oh, well, emulators are ass for King of Fighters All-Star. And that is not the case. Emulators used to be a bit of a problem, and certain emulators might be, and your mileage may vary depending on the hardware you're running it on. However, there is a huge contingent of the player base that uses emulators to great effect. And whether it's LD player or Mumu or whatever player you find that works on your device, it can be a huge boon to your performance. For example, if you see someone doing a Guild Raid run, doing 7, 8, 900 million damage, 9 times out of 10, they're probably on an emulator using macros. Now, they may not advertise that, and that isn't necessarily because they're trying to hide anything whatsoever. It's just that how often do you see somebody in their description put, oh, well, I'm using this setup for this, this, or this. It's not something people do. But at the same time, I do feel like there are a lot of players out there, and I've seen people complain about this, that say, oh, well, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I have the exact same setup. I have the exact same stuff, blah, 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 and I cannot even achieve half of those numbers. Well, the reason being is you're not on an emulator and you're not using macros. And when I bring up macros, I feel like a lot of people may not know what macros are. So When it comes to what macros are, basically in the most distilled form, macros are where you take a sequence of keystrokes or clicks and you bind them to a single click or keystroke. So for example, just as kind of an example here, you might have, for instance, one of your characters in your guild raid dungeon, and you might have their skill rotation, their ideal skill rotation bound to one button, meaning that you swap them in, hit that one button, and all of a sudden they go through all of their sequences of their skills with one keystroke, which saves you a ton of time. It's far quicker, and obviously it is going to be more efficient. So that is something that a lot of players use, and I don't consider that. Some people are going to take this the wrong way. They're going to think, oh, well, that's cheating. And I suppose if you want to take it that way, you can take it that way. However, in my opinion, I have no issue with it whatsoever. I think that there are far, far, far worse things that go on in this game. I don't even think this ranks. But when it comes to that, whenever you see people doing these runs where it's incredibly quick and incredibly spot on for each keystroke, and you're wondering how the hell are they able to do this? A lot of times, and this isn't the case for everyone, although I would argue that you can tell from the scores a lot of the time who's doing it and who isn't, that's what they're doing. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. However, I do find it important to bring that to the attention of the community at large. That way they can make the decision for themselves if they want to do those things themselves, because you can run this game on pretty much any decent laptop, and much less a PC. If you have a PC, then by all means you can run this game fairly well, pretty easy. So if you want to take advantage of those types of things, go right ahead. Now, I personally have never done them. If you have not noticed, I am kind of a low-key setup when it comes to my rigs and what I do as far as my tech, and that will eventually change as the channel grows. But you know, if you are one of those people out there that feels like there's value there, maybe you want to do those things in order to better your runs, not just in guild raid, because it doesn't stop at guild raid runs. You know, a lot of people use it for time attack. You know, for time attack, there are some people that could not get even half the performance out of their phone that they could on an emulator. And for a lot of people, emulators really boil down to, it's just easier and more comfortable to do things on a mouse, a keyboard, than it is on your mobile phone. And I totally get that. You know, tapping on your mobile phone, one, is inefficient. Your fingers can only move so fast and only do so much work at a time for so long before you end up with the KOF Allstar carpal tunnel, which I've definitely felt over time, and I'm sure anybody who's done multiple runs on Guild Raid in a row would know the feeling. But it's one of those things where I do not blame people for using those things. However, I do feel like a lot of players, just kind of the general public, needs to understand that those are factors. Those are things that come into play. So that way they aren't banging their heads against their, you know, phone or their desk or whatever the case may be, whatever hard surface is in front of them, and going, why can't I achieve these numbers? It might not have as much to do with something you are or something you are not doing. It may have more to do with the fact that your hardware or your software is not going to be as efficient as the person you are viewing. So really, at the end of the day, you work with what you got, right? Basically, it's one of those things where if you can find a emulator that runs well for you and you want to do that, do it. I've heard a ton of people talk about LD Player, and there are several different versions of it, but I've heard that most people like that one and find that one to be the most efficient. However, I've also seen people bring up other emulators as well, like Moo Player and things of that nature, and there's plenty out there. And you might have one work for you, you might have one that doesn't work for you. It seems hit or miss for different people as far as the frequency of issues and the severity of those issues that they might have. But I wanted to make sure that I brought these things to people's attention and kind of defined these terms for people, because I feel like there are a ton of people that have no idea what these things are. They don't realize how much of a difference these things make. And as a channel that prides itself on trying to be somewhat educational, regardless of the fact that I'm a complete dodo head 90% of the time, I wanted to make sure that I brought those things to you guys' attention, so that way you could educate yourselves on kind of how these things work, because there may come a time in the future where I might try these things myself. I've actually been looking into them, and because I really want to kind of expand a bit and explore those things, broaden my horizons, as it were. And so therefore, to do that, I find that I need to break out of my little happy place that I've carved out here with my puny little Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus, and move on to bigger and better things at some point, just to kind of see what the world has in store for me. But that'll be something that we do down the road. But I hope you guys find this somewhat informational, because I feel that a lot of players, again, don't realize these things. So you can let me know in the comment section. Please don't turn this into something where we're flaming people for doing these things, or whatever the case may be. They are not doing anything that, in my opinion, is wrong. And therefore, I feel like, you play the game the way you want to play the game, right? As long as you're not exploiting the game, cheating the game, then have fun. So anyway, that is going to be this week's topic. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Now, one big point that I need to make here before we get out of this video. I was about to say get rid of this video. I can't do that until I put it on YouTube. Anyway, one big thing I do want to talk to you guys about is tomorrow there may or may not be a video from me, and the reason being is I am going to be filming a stream. I suppose it's more so just a long-form video podcast that I will be posting here on the channel later on this week. But I'm going to be doing the first ever PvP power ranking video with the boy Saint, and he will be coming in and he will be lending his expertise to the channel in order to go over his tier list for PvP and explain to you guys the changes that have happened to the tier list over the course of the past several weeks, with the lament of buffs to characters such as Lady Chang, as well as the new SS characters, and so on and so forth. So he and I will be going through his tier list and breaking the changes down for you guys and giving you the latest power rankings for King of Fighters All-Star. So look forward to that. That'll be something that I will be doing with him tomorrow. So I will hopefully have that video edited and uploaded at some point here in the coming days. But I just wanted to warn you guys, in case you don't see a video tomorrow, don't think anything happened to me. Don't send the dogs. So anyway, guys, that's this week's video. Like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.